Hello everyone, welcome to today's Money Talks in Silicon Valley. Today I welcome my guest Andreas Knuffel. He is a thought leader in customer success and he's also a long-term friend, so I've known him for many years. And I've always enjoyed reading his publications and listening to his stories about working with his customers. And what really got me present to the importance of his work, I actually started looking at my own business model. You know, I'm a financial professional, and with many other service professionals, we're also kind of adopting almost a software company kind of a model where we're transitioning from charging a fee to now being, charging a fee like on an ongoing basis, providing services on an ongoing, like a subscription basis. And that is right in his wheelhouse. He's spent a lot of years working with software companies and other professional service companies to providing consultation on how do you actually begin to develop a successful customer relationship in this subscription model. So I thought it would be a really relevant subject given today's economic situation that more and more companies are heading towards that direction. So thank you for being here with us.
So welcome, pleasure to be here. And yes, I recently published an article in the Top Person magazine that basically says fire your sales team and hire customer success because that's the better survival strategy. And it's based on economics, it's based not on emotion.
That's quite a bold statement. So why don't you start? I'd like to ask you, so what is customer success in your definition?
When you look from a historic perspective, what changed in the software industry and has now been adopted in other industries as well, like you mentioned, financial planning, CPAs, etc., etc. In the last economic downturn, people were still buying software. So the entire profit that you got from a customer happened basically with the sale event of the software at the beginning. Salesforce came along even before that and proved the business model that is now so commonplace with everything in the cloud and not buying software anymore, but leasing software, leasing services, and subscribing to a specific service. So with that, if we're assuming that you renew your software lease every year, you cannot assume automatically that your customer will give you the same amount of money again.
Right.
And customer success is therefore about, first of all, retaining the revenue that you get from your existing customer, but also expanding that revenue stream that you have from your existing customers. And that is not happening automatically, because if you're leasing software or other type of services instead of a huge upfront investment, it's easier to justify a switch. It is easier to look back at all the things that now that you've been using it, you hate about it,
yes,
and to believe that the grass is greener at some other pasture than you have it. And so customer success is about making sure that your customers are getting value from whatever service you're providing, that you prove to them that they're getting the value.
I see.
So that at the end of the year, when you come to ask for more money, you can equate the fees that you charge with the services that you provided, and that both parties are able to agree on this up front instead of having to argue at the end and having a customer who, in our parlance, churns or abandons you for someone else.
Yes, so what I'm hearing is it's more like having communications with your customers every step along the way to articulate the value that you're providing, such that they recognize as much as you do what is it that you're doing for them, the value you're providing for them.
That is one aspect, but it is deeper. depending on what service you're providing, first of all, you may have some onboarding phase.
Mm-hmm.
There is hardly a second chance to a bad first impression.
Sure.
So if whatever you did to get started, you're fumbling there, you have already an uphill battle. So
right.
Customer success ensures that this onboarding phase is successful. That if the user or the user community is actually adopting successfully, so training and other type of mechanisms are in there. That when there are any type of issues, you're supporting your customer, that you're monitoring the health of your customer.
Sure.
Not just reactively when they call for help, because not every customer calls for help.
Yes.
Some of them just go away.
Right.
And then you realize that you lost them. So you monitor the health of the relationship, you monitor the value that you're getting, and you're communicating this. That could be in a very automated fashion. Obviously, if your subscription value is the hundreds or thousands of dollars, you're not setting up quarterly meetings. But if you're talking about multi-million-dollar purchase decisions, you may want to ensure that you see eye to eye with the executive that approves the renewal of the purchase in a very personalized interaction, a business review of sorts where you review the relationship and the value that you're getting out of it. So there are multiple ways to do this. And while it sounds very elaborate, at the end of the day, a well-executed customer success strategy, and that's where I come in to kind of set this up and make that happen, is an about 10-cent investment of the dollar that you're getting in the renewal and the expansion of your software revenue. So it's very profitable.
Yes, I would imagine from a business perspective, it's much more effective to be retaining the same clients on a subscription model than obtaining new clients. I would imagine it's very expensive to actually obtain new.
Absolutely. When you look at the CRM category that Salesforce is part of, that was the whole premise of saying it's easier to sell to existing customers than to new ones. But customer success has gone a bit deeper than all the CRM software providers are doing, but on the same promise. To gain a new customer, for every dollar of initial value, you have to spend between 90 cents and $2.50 to get that $1 of purchase. So it's very expensive.
So if it's $2.50, that means you got to retain a customer for 2.5 years in order to break even.
Exactly, and that's just breaking even.
Right.
Yeah.
So
spending enough between 10 and 15 cents on the dollar to retain that customer is beneficial, because the businesses that are not doing it, and I have an industry benchmark survey that has the data to actually prove that. The businesses that are struggling with customer success or don't have customer success, they're retaining out of an existing group of customers about 87 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
So it's continuously shrinking. So they have to replenish it more and more with the new expensive sales.
Yes.
Whereas the customers that spend 10 to 15 cents on the dollar, they are having an average not $1 out of the existing customers, but $1.40.
I see.
So it's continuously increasing. So it is a profitable value proposition for you as a business to embrace customer success, as well as to your customers, because they're seeing that you're providing more value and they're happy, not reluctant to pay you more because they're seeing that they're getting more.
So let me just get what you're saying. So from 87 cents from a dollar means that you're actually earning 13% less than before, and therefore if that trend continues, then you will have a smaller and smaller book of business with your existing customers. So eventually you're gonna have to replenish your book of business just to maintain the same level of income and to experience growth. I see. So instead of, for a small investment, customer success, you can actually turn that 87 cents into $1.40 and a 40% expansion, year after year, so that you continue to have a better relationship, more revenue stream from the same client instead of having to invest 2.5 times more to buy a new client. Got it. That's really important, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I can actually relate a lot of that to myself. To my line of business. I have over 140 clients, up to this day after all this many years of working in the industry. And the conversation with my existing clients is a much more friendlier conversation, much more direct, much more, helpful conversation for my clients than me having to reintroduce myself to a new client, reintroduce, my books, my product and services, and having to compete with other financial professionals. So I can definitely relate to that.
Absolutely. And again, coming back, since we are right now in a recession, when you say, here is my management fee again, a customer is not just looking, well, I like Peter because he's a nice person, but all things considered, the value that he provided to me is worth going with him instead of taking my portfolio with whoever else is out there, right? To the competition because their fees are a percentage point lower or something like that. Exactly. So having a relationship that is not just personal based, but also value based helps you to rise to the top when it comes to the purchase decisions and the decisions of which purchases not to make anymore with the money you don't make at the moment, right?
Yes.
And that is the key of customer success.
Awesome. Thank you. Tell me about the Customer Success Performance Index. Now you helped develop this index. Yes?
I invented the Customer Success Performance Index, and it is a benchmark survey for customer success. The additional value that you gain out of this one instead of anyone else out there are multifold. Number one, it provided already a correlation between what is the business doing from a best practices perspective that leads to this top of line 140% of renewal rate instead of the 87%. Instead of just what everyone is doing. 75% of businesses are not doing the smart things, so following them is not a good advice. So you can benchmark yourself into how am I doing from a business performance and how am I doing from a best practice perspective. Number two, you get actually a personalized recommendation report that says, here is what you're doing and here are some tips that you could follow already by yourself. And that is as a thank you, as an ROI for spending about 10 minutes on this survey. It is not as deep as thorough as a consulting engagement when I come in and do a full-fledged assessment and go into more of the operational details, but it provides you already with value.
I see.
And so from that perspective...
So that's something the business owners can do themselves and already receive value from what they're doing so far.
Yes, exactly. And the URL will be in the video, but if you look up Customer Success Performance Index, you will land on the CS Tuners, that is my business page. You can complete the survey in about 10 minutes and receive instantaneously a report with your individual results.
Right, I see. So now, that's really cool, and thank you for sharing that with us. I want to ask you, so in your career working with other business owners, and seeing what they're doing with customer success, right? Juggling between their sales teams and their service teams and everything. What are some of the pitfalls or misconceptions or common mistakes that you see business owners are making? As in, how do people identify that's what they have in their business as well?
Sure, and there are a couple of things. Customer success as a discipline is about 7 years old, and so there are still some misconceptions out there, and there is some reluctance to change out there. So number one is still this mantra of sales is king. When you look at a thriving business, not a brand new Silicon Valley startup, right. Most of your revenue is coming from existing customers. Right. So you also need to empower your customer success team to be enabled and equipped to do the things to retain and expand your customers, and not celebrating only sales as the only heroes. Yeah. Obviously, sales is important in any business, and it takes a certain marvelous personality to be successful there. And so they shouldn't be diminished, but they're also not the only top dog in the business anymore. So
every once in a while, you got to have a service gal be the employee of the month, given the upfront parking or something.
Yes, absolutely. Right?
Got it.
That is the first misconception.
I see.
The other misconception
sales is not always king. Other pieces also.
Yes.
King. Okay.
And that is why I started this interview with this bold statement about fire your sales team and hire customer success, or retain your customer success team. And hopefully through the economic data that I provided, you see that this is not just based on emotion, because I'm in customer success, I think I'm more important than anyone else, right. But that from a financial perspective, from a financial performance, that bold statement has some teeth. The second mistake companies are making is to have customer success and not be a continued selling role. That it's relational. Then I become your friend, but we're talking about a business decision. We're not talking about buying your friendship. Mm-hmm. When you, Peter, are talking to your customer base, you're talking about providing economic value and charging fees for that economic value. Sure. So the relationship that customer success builds should have the personal interaction, absolutely. That is always a core assumption for good other topics to converse on. But it should not end at saying, here are the value items that I provide to you, and this is the fee that I will charge for it, and be that salesperson as well to conclude that transactional sale, instead of handing it off to someone else.
So the overall experience for the customer, experiencing your service, on a bigger level, right? The entire experience makes a difference for them.
Yeah, exactly. And customer success should always be like the conductor of an orchestra, someone who interacts with other resources to maintain that relationship and to transact on the renewal. Nice. So if you have a technical problem, customer success brings a technical expert in, but you're not throwing it over the fence. you're still there and making sure that things are taken care of. If there is a billing question, you bring someone from your revenue team into the equation, but you'll make sure that your customer is serviced. When it comes to the renewal time, again, you're not throwing it over the fence, you're providing that continuity in all aspects of the ongoing relationship.
So I'm seeing this as almost a central role that combines part of sales and service and post sales or continuing renewal service, like everything also together. This new responsibility of creating a coherent customer experience with your company as a role, as opposed to being passed, between different departments. I think we all have that experience where you call a company for some service and you explain your entire problem, and only to have the guy say, "That's not my department, I got to transfer you somewhere else." I think
yes, and they ask you again what your name is, what your customer number is, the last 4 digits of your social, just to verify it.
Yes.
And then they have to read up on the problem.
Right.
Instead of me saying, I need to bring in a technical expert. The technical expert, and technical could mean anything, right? It could be about finance, it could be about legal, it could be about the technology, etc., etc. It could be your market analyst that you bring to the equation to explain.
To know who I am and what we're talking about here.
You're the first line of contact. Yes. You have the consistency. You know what is going on. It can be that whoever else is brought into the equation has independent dialogue. You don't need to babysit their conversations, but it comes back to you. That person says, problem solved, customer happy again in whatever criteria that is. And you continue maintaining that relationship.
Yeah, I got it now. That really is very important. I can very much personally relate to that. I mean, personally, I would love to do business repeatedly when they remember who I am. They know what the conversation has been going on, what my consistent challenges are, and I hate to go to a company where like I have to train them who I am every time, and I know they're just looking at my situations in a computer trying to figure out what the best thing is to tell me there every time. So definitely a much more different service.
And of course, if we're looking at your telecom provider, you cannot expect to have the same person that you're interacting with all the time. But at least for one situation, my phone's not connecting anymore, this, that, or the other, that you have that consistency, at least in a smaller scale. It's not operationally feasible to have someone dedicated.
Yeah.
If I am a customer who makes multi-million-dollar purchase decisions every year to renew, then to have that in the personal named relationship becomes more and more important.
Yeah.
But to provide that context and to apply these principles goes from small value to large value as a philosophy first, and then you look into the operational feasibility.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. I was just thinking about the way that our business is run. Myself being a financial advisor, my partner, and our team members, sometimes we do pass along, hey, so-and-so needs a new application sent to them. Would you help with that? One of my team members would take over from there. But I can totally see where if you implement this customer success idea from a philosophical perspective, then every team member is taking the initiative to not only do the application, but also learn a little bit more about a client, understand their current situation. Every step along the way, there's checks and balances to make sure whatever paperwork that is being done is actually getting done correctly. And that if some mistake were to happen, it will be caught in every step along the way, instead of just me telling my team member, this needs to get done, and then they go and complete it without any understanding of why we're doing such a thing and how this relates to the client.
Yes. And without any feedback back to you, it's done.
Yes. I got that. I think I finally got today, after all these many conversations, the philosophical approach towards customer success and how that is critically important for a company. So again, I just want to thank you for being here and bring your vast knowledge and experience
You're
in
so
customer
welcome.
success for us. And so you do have a website, obviously. So
Yes.
I will definitely put that in the link in the video, and so that if our viewers have any questions, want to connect with you, they know where to go. And
absolutely, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Andreas Knofel. There is only one. You can connect through my website, cstuners.com, or the Customer Success Performance Index. All these roads lead to my services. I'm happy to engage in a conversation.
Great.
And if that conversation results into an economic benefit for both, then absolutely. But that doesn't have to be the first part. And thank you again for having me. Thank you again in being curious enough about
absolutely.
customer success
Yes.
to provide me with this forum. And to all of us, I wish that we come out of this economic crisis more prosperous than ever.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm counting on it. Thank you for being here. And thank you, everyone. And this is today's episode of Money Talks Silicon Valley. See you next time.